I want to go back to a part of the reading that was shared. This particular part that said, quote, "Be careful what you've been taught and told about transformation because much of it takes us exactly in the wrong direction. Our challenge as communities of transformation is to remind each other about those different tactics, remembering transformation is about breathing rather than becoming better. It's about patience, not perfection. I say that it's about relational depth and not dominance. Transformation is about attention, not intention, attention, and not improvement." I will say that as a person who is naturally ambitious, I consider myself a kind of persistent pursuer, constantly striving for growth and development of myself and others when I'm invited to assist. I share this to say that there was a time when I couldn't reconcile concepts like breathing, not meditating or focusing on intention or even mindful thinking, but simply breathing as a tool of transformation. It felt so counterintuitive that I couldn't believe that. In fact, I resisted believing it because it seemed too easy of a path. I couldn't believe that breathing, which equated to me doing nothing, could equate to the kind of growth that I wanted, that I felt called to have. It wasn't until I was able to unlearn what I'd been taught about transformation that I could actually grow. So I'm going to share a very quick story that illustrates that last point because all of y'all were a part of it. Well, some of y'all, because we have a lot of new faces, and so a lot of people weren't here last Sunday. So last Sunday, in the midst of celebrating and honoring UUCT's 70th anniversary, I had a significant experience of growth. As wonderful as the service was, y'all might remember me sharing that as a service leader, my worst fear manifested. 5 minutes before church started, I completely lost my script. And those moments that I'm like God moments, because all I can think, oh God, oh God, oh God, oh God, oh God, oh God. In the past, I would have immediately been berating myself for being irresponsible, unprofessional, beating myself up about not doing better. But if Bob was here, he would remember, and maybe some other folks who were in the booth might remember, that I did something that was counterintuitive. I burst out laughing heartily. I did not go into, oh God, what I'm going to do. I just laughed. And honestly, with my God language, I thanked God because I'm like, okay, you must about to do something amazing because I have no words. But I believe in journeying with this friend who always has the words to say. I use language of spirit. Sometimes it's the universe, the great beyond, that sometimes we tap into and we're like, I don't know where those words just came from, but something just gave them to me. In those moments, I'm like, ooh, to God be the glory, because this one right here, I don't know nothing. But sometimes that is the thing, to just acknowledge and honor. You don't got to do nothing. You don't got to know nothing. You can just trust. You can. And so last week, I had this moment of simply breathing and allowing the energy of the great, mysterious unknown to be welcomed into my being and our worship experience. And in that experience, I felt the music of our church's ministry stretching out to mend that part of my inner world that threatened to break in fear or shame of perceived irresponsibility. I had healing right in that moment just from breathing and listening. Andrea Gibson has a short quote that I love regarding this. She says, "This I now know for certain. I do all of growing during the times in my life when I am offering compassion to the part of myself that has not yet grown. I never once managed to shame myself into a version of me I loved more. Shame don't get us nowhere. And that's my experience, berating myself of thinking I did something wrong when I could just breathe and trust that perhaps something intended for it to be this way. Perhaps. I'm not saying that it did, but perhaps. So, no, I don't want to skip this part. I'm trying to, but I don't want to skip this part. So for me, breathing without internally shaming myself offered a self-compassion I didn't know that I had grown. In the space of simply breathing, I was able to be present to the ministry of a mysterious transformation of what some of y'all might have heard of this author, Tema Okun, who famously or infamously, depending on how you feel about her writings, labeled as characteristics of white supremacist culture, i.e. perfectionism, the worship of written word, etc. I'm not going to go into the work of Tema Okun, but I mention it as an example of how simply breathing in real life did the work of dismantling internalized oppression so that I could be present in our service without mentally beating myself up. I wanted to share that part because I know we're a community that really believes in justice and liberation, and sometimes we don't so much believe in a lot of the spirituality of God stuff and all of that, and that's cool. But it's so important that we also acknowledge that these practices like breathing, these practices that my lovely wife was mentioning around fasting and things that we might think are counterintuitive to doing big work of justice, it's doing something. We have no idea. I learned about dancing, this universal peace dancing that's happening all around the world, all the time. It's probably a dance going on right now that is serving the work of justice and peace. That's counterintuitive sometimes to think that dancing, fasting, breathing is doing justice work. It's amazing, but I don't want to take us too far over time right now. But I promise you, I am going to get some things together so that I can continue to share the words, that I do take time to prepare for the service, but I do not worship my own word so much that I feel like I got to get up here and do all of the talking, because I am so grateful for every member of this community who takes the initiative to say, hey, I got something to say and I want to be up here. I'm always going to prioritize that over a sermon, so y'all forgive me for that. So I want to leave you with two quotes. I would have woven this in, but it's my favorite, and I cannot leave this without. It's by Octavia Butler. This first quote is, all that you touch, you change. All that you change changes you. The only lasting truth is change. I insert perhaps. God is change. So that's the quote from Octavia Butler. And then I just want to go into announcements with this quote that Georgia read. It was by Henry Frederick Ariel. Let mystery have its place in you. Do not be always turning up your whole soil, your mental mind, with a plowshare of self-examination and asking why, but leave a little fallow corner in your mind and your heart, ready for any seed the winds may bring. Reserve a little nook of a shadow for the passing bird. Keep a place in your heart for the unexpected guest, an altar for an unknown God.